do I look?
Ready for action.
You can take some for your friends as well.
Sounds good to me.
But we thought we should start with a nice refresh by playing the trailer you guys probably saw in the opening ceremony today. So, let's hit it. Trailer, please.
A day infamous not only for breaking the record of the most attendance for a convention dedicated solely to one game, but also the day that announced the first official Minecraft spin-off game. Little did the Minecraft community, myself included, know just how crazy the journey of the game would be. From birth to death to rebirth, Minecraft Story Mode is a flawed, yet quintessential game experience.
Everyone's running away, except for you.
Our gang sticks together, that's what we do.
It's in your hands now! Go!
What do you guys think? You excited about that game? Yeah? Nice.
Once Story Mode made its announcement into the world, the response was met with both enthusiasm and doubt. Enthusiasm from the Minecraft community in that it was the first official Minecraft spin-off from Mojang in partnership with Telltale, further fueled by big-name YouTubers such as DanTDM, Captain Sparkles, Stampy Cat, and several others. The internet still lingered with backlash to the announcement. Infamously, a hotspot to the negative reaction would be Reddit, a common misconception being that the game was being developed as a result of Microsoft having bought Minecraft from Notch the previous year. A misconception in that Mojang and Telltale, according to Telltale Creative Communications lead Job Stoffer, had already been for 2 years preceding the sale in discussion about the game, a discussion brought about as a result of Minecraft being a sandbox game, a blank canvas for storytelling, to quote Stoffer, creating an interesting challenge for Telltale. That, and the other factors, ranging from the increasing amount of fan-made Minecraft narrative content existing on YouTube, and other forms of media further stressing Minecraft's blank canvas potential to many Telltale workers, even some of them being fans enough of Minecraft to play on a private server, with the incidents occurring on there becoming ideas for story modes narratives, would drive the game to fruition. Additionally, it was revealed that Telltale would be opting for a more family-friendly direction with story mode, as opposed to the more graphic and emotionally draining content that they had been releasing previously, instead paying homage to family-friendly films such as The Goonies and Ghostbusters. And most controversially, they opted to stay away from the central lore of the game, from default characters like Steve and Alex to simple standout concepts originating from Minecraft, such as where creepers come from, and instead designing its narrative and character loosely around archetypes of common players and their journeys for Minecraft, such as fighters, engineers, griefers, builders, and adventurers. To sum it up, whilst there was optimism for the game, the controversial decisions surrounding it would attribute to its overall response.
The only way off this bridge is through them. There's too many of them. I don't want to die!
Minecraft Story Mode Episode 1, The Order of the Stone, opened the game October 13th, 2015 to mixed reception according to Metacritic and game rankings. Of course, mixed reviews from major review sites would not hinder the true success of Story Mode, that success being its broad influence upon the internet in the wake of its release. Reviews on Steam were generally positive, big-name YouTubers would go on to play the game, garnering millions upon millions of views. However, they were just the tip of the iceberg. In its wake would be meme videos, ship videos, animations, Minecraft maps, skins, and resource packs, fan arts and fanfictions from several sites ranging from DeviantArt to Wattpad, even YouTube channels dedicated entirely to the game itself, which would at times lead to very questionable rabbit holes, but for the most part was creating a very dedicated, energetic, and inspired fanbase that continued to express their love for the game, and continues to express it to this very day. And despite not only the rabbit holes of Reddit continuing to bash the game, but also articles devoted to the subject as well, Telltale did not stop. Hence how the series reached its first conclusion December 22nd, 2015, provided that I upload this video at the exact right time, what we're celebrating the 8th year anniversary of, whilst also leaving room for anticipation for another adventure, and another adventure after that. And yet, a sense of finality still pervades over the first storyline of Minecraft Story Mode, for the game's first conclusion would also be the end of an era. Writing a retrospective of Minecraft Story Mode has led to a topic of narrative and qualitative discussion requiring all the elements of the game to be broken down into its key components. The first will be the narrative, which will be quickly recapped with the plot points to be addressed in passing for the following components. The second will be the flaws, which will address the missed potential within the game. The third will be the legend, which will address what makes it quintessential still. And finally, the fourth will be the question of potential, which will ultimately ask if Minecraft Story Mode needed to be better. Dedicated to the legacy of the Order of the Stone, Jesse and the gang seek out to become as extraordinary as them, a desire becoming a mission for them in the wake of the storm ignited by a cryptic figure in the Order's past. In their search for the Order, they begin to unravel truths, which give way to failures and a conspiracy capable of breaking the world worse than the storm. The conspiracy leaves the gang of ordinary people with no choice but to assume responsibility for which the Order never carried out, nor could it ever. Only could the new group assume the responsibility of their supposed superiors by righting their wrongs, healing broken friendships, untangling bitter rivalries, embracing truth with healing, assuming leadership for others, and taking a stand against the storm for the world when no one else could. Their fulfillment to not only these responsibilities, but the true legend of the Order of the Stone leads them to attaining their position as the new Order of the Stone. And they attained it because they couldn't go back. As stated before, whilst the game was popular amongst the Minecraft fandom at large, and did well financially for Telltale, it did not get great reviews from critics. It did receive some good reviews, but at large, the consensus for the game was generally mixed, and its mixed reception could be part of what attributed to Telltale having to shut down, with their investors pulling out of funding their projects, and its reception could come down to these flaws. The technical presentation to start off, because Story Mode was run on a custom animation software known as Telltale Tool, which was then given the axe after the completion of Season 2 in favor of a more standard game engine, and for good reason, because when taking that and how quickly the episodes had to be produced after the next, the animation in Story Mode is not held up too well. It ranges from smaller things, from mountains so curvedly cursed it might have been rejected from Phoenix SC for not looking amateurish enough, and weird teleportation and lighting of the setting and entities in the background, to mildly distracting moments and dialogues made only for specific choices.
That didn't sound as good as it did in my head. Also, I'm hungry. To win.
No, I'm with that.
As well as awkward character movements in the story, such as Jesse and the gang leaving the armor room after saying there's plenty to go around, then we see them armor next time. There are also several more animation flaws throughout, such as flaws within the structure of the building. Like, how do Jesse and Lucas fall from a lower level into the next room one choice, but get there without going any lower at all in another? And there are a few more examples of general structure flaws, but that's the general meat of it. Most aggravating of all, however, is how these flaws would be passed on to later seasons, and even resulting in animation for Netflix that was supposed to be remastered, but partially because of Telltale having to rush out the game with their remaining staff, fell way flatter than the original. This is a part of a laundry list of reasons why the original game is far superior to the Netflix version, but we'll deal with that in its own video, maybe. One of Story Mode's chief criticisms came down to the lack of gameplay within the story, and somewhat rightfully so, as the illusion of choice is often utilized, and yet there are plenty of finer details within result of choice in Story Mode, particularly in different playthroughs, from alternate character movements and expressions to the old temple being fortified to match the style of the Order member the player chose not to seek out, to even callbacks from previous choices that really drive home how far Jesse and the gang has come. And the element of choice within the game does put a enough pressure on the player to make the right call to lead to a satisfying payoff, such as when Lucas comes back to save Jesse in the game, only made possible if you made friends with the rival from the past. And even if well bested by Season 2's choice system, the payoff was done at least moderately well in Season 1. However, the lack of overall change to the story is also present, with the exception of the first half of Episode 2, as while there are a few choices that make a real impact, the different responses of the Wither victims to Jesse's choice in the grinder for one, the whole of choice in the game is unfortunately less than the sum of its parts. Choices that seem impactful and should be, are not. One example being Magnagard dying. Whichever dies, outside of a couple lines of dialogue showing Olivia's bias towards Elgard, barely affects the plot, for the surviving member is written out anyway. Another example is the choice of whether the group should trek the Storms at night or in the morning, and if the latter is chosen, the Wither Storm appears, but no damage is done to the fortress, and the characters move as if it was never there. So why have that choice be there in the first place? I have no idea. And overall, what drives a lot of the game can be driven the almost exact same way were it a movie, which leads into the lack of free roam. We do get some nice touches, some great scenery within the free roam sections of the game. However, the free roam primarily focuses on the player on the same fetch and place objectives, the same destination even when taking alternate paths to get there. The combat in the game when it's not key punches and mouse clicks is also lackluster and used very rarely. Another aspect improved upon in Season 2 thanks to the stamina bar, and the action punches to the action, while effective enough to keep the player on the edge of their seat as they anticipate which key to press, is a little clunky. You use WASD, Q and E for quick punches, arrows for quick ducks and dodges, and get this, you also have to bolt your hand when you least expect it to the left mouse button. Shocking, I know, especially when the jumps and hits that are made with the mouse button fit the E and arrow keys more than the mouse. So why have the left mouse button there? I haven't the faintest clue. Story mode is a game that has also been dismissed because of its characters and plot, being seen as basic and uninventive. This section of criticisms will be shorter than most see them as, for of the 3 criticism topics covered, I find these range of criticisms to be the ones most worthy of defending, although even I can't deny there are some flaws within them. For the characters, whilst a lot of the characters do seem on the surface basic, and yes, if you look at it bluntly, they are a little, and yes, some of the characters are underdeveloped and or needed more screen time to be truly fleshed out, it's primarily both the performances that stress their personalities and the writing, in some instances, which allow these personalities to be given growth throughout the story, that make quite a bit of them at least somewhat above basic for me, although there are a couple of missed opportunities within character beats when they flow with the plot, primarily with Petra and Gabriel. For the former has great work by the excellent Ashley Johnson, and some great character beats, and by the way, I'm a huge fan of her character, putting aside how she flows with the story. However, the story doesn't do much to connect the beats for giving her character development, although the choice of whether it's her or Gabriel that Jesse pulls for the Wither can be part to blame for it. For Amnesia, Petra gets even less to work with, since she has, well, amnesia. We can see threads of her going from a tough cookie with self-interest to her breaking down because of her sickness to her joining and believing in what the Order stands for, which could lead to strong character development had the story connected those beats better. Gabriel is a different problem, for if you go with Wither Gabriel, you get one consistently written arc of him learning to take responsibility, but if you get Amnesia Gabriel, his character is almost entirely excised from the story. Perhaps it was for the better that the story didn't give 2 characters as much focus as it could have, as it already has several beats going on about Jesse's dealings with Lucas, Axel, and Olivia, as well as other old Order members. And in all fairness, Petra's turn for character development would come for Season 2 and even moments of the Adventure Pass, but it's kind of a doozy, you know? And for the latter comes the plot, which will be very brief, for the only main flaw I see with it personally is the tone. For while the story deals in thematic and moral themes that will be delved into very shortly, the consistent beats of goofiness within the tone do undermine these themes somewhat, from weird lines to randomly inserted jokes at somewhat inappropriate moments. Perhaps had Telltale gone for a tone that was somewhat darker, not Walking Dead dark, but still darker than what we got, those themes would have been much more prevalent within the game, and then most of the criticisms for the game plot would have been silenced. Unfortunately, however, the flaws of the game could be what kept it from being seen as great to many. For in Telltale's seemingly final years, their investors pulled out and they had to shut down due to the financial issues. Thus, they were unable to continue story mode or extend the licensing deal between them and Mojang, even though they were brought back into business later, hence leading to the game being pulled from markets, left to fade with time. And yet, the legend of Minecraft story mode endured.
Nothing built can last forever, and every legend, no matter how great, fades with time. With each passing year, more and more details are lost, until all that remains are myths, half-truths. To put it simply, lies. And yet, in all the known universe, between here and the far lands, the legend of the Order of the Stone endures, unabridged as self-evident fact.
Little did I know in my youth just on how many levels, how relevant this monologue would be to the legacy of Minecraft story mode, and it began with a story that must be told again.
This is built one block at a time.
An adventure that had everyone saying, just one more block.
For the legend that preceded that of the Order of the Stone was a legend that before it changed everything, that was Minecraft itself. For the Order had seemingly evolved, not unlike the game of Minecraft. For as Minecraft evolved, so did their legend. When the Nether was discovered, they ran right into it. When new adventure awaited them, they were ready for it. When they finally faced Minecraft's endgame,
The end.
the rest of the stories was theirs. And in they went to seemingly do battle and obtain victory from the Ender Dragon, and assure seemingly to those who had looked up to them, those who admired them for their achievement, that peace and prosperity
would reign forever.
Well, not exactly forever.
For even Minecraft knew that even though one story had ended, a legend now destined to fade, that another one would begin. And it began with a challenge to the notions of beliefs to not just Jesse, but to the player, to all the players of, and to Minecraft as a whole. That the legend was nothing but a common dream. But that common dream was a dream still to the masses, from the numerous supporters surrounding different members of the Order to parties that aspired to their greatness, seen most of all in Jesse's party, for they found their identity within those of the Order members. We meet Olivia, who inspires herself by the likes of Elgar in her ambitions for Redstone Engineering, Axel, a person obsessed with explosive and destructive creativity not unlike that of Magnus's, Petra, who is somewhat reckless like her inspirational figure, Gabriel the Warrior, develops strong combat skills in her inspiration, and even one of their rivals, Lucas, who shares not only a passion of architecture to that of Soren's, but also distances his identity from others, a bit of a loner from both his gang and the rival gang. In fact, everything leading up to the main credits achieves the purpose of establishing identity for every character. Except for one. Notice how in the scene when Jesse and his friends are first introduced, that up until the big bang of that scene, that Jesse does not get a close-up. The first shot of him is seen from afar as the camera pans from the Gabriel banner to Jesse practicing combat in their treehouse as he, just like everyone else, treats Gabriel as his idol. And inside, whenever the camera cuts to Jesse, either Olivia or Ruben is in the frame alongside him, one of him continuing to swing his sword and idolize Gabriel, the other wincing in fear at the thought of which he would rather fight, foreshadowing for how Jesse will find what we as the players are trying to find, which is his identity. The foreshadowing continues as we see Jesse react to the bang that is Axel's creeper prank, as we, the players, through our choices, form Jesse's identity. Throughout the rest of the scenes when he's alone, we through our own actions see more of Jesse's identity, which establishes what he has in common with the rest of his friends, his ambitions to become as extraordinary as the Order. And yet, while it's a piece of the puzzle, it still leaves the question of distinction from the rest of the characters a mystery, suggesting that Jesse has looked up to all the Order members, from his own ambitions to relations with identities of basis on the Order members, and in doing so, lacks a distinct identity himself, and in his story, he might achieve one he wasn't expecting, separating him from the others. In order to reach that moment of distinction, however, he needs to become what is determined as the powerless character. Once things begin falling apart for Jesse's team after Ruben's costume catches fire, Jesse chases after him in the following night, and the camera is utilized for the player to speculate on what might happen next, which indeed leaves Jesse powerless. As the night grows darker and darker as Jesse moves further and further into the forest, the camera cuts from long shots to close shots, almost too far, almost too close, a use of uncomfortable shots which build upon the player's anticipation. As that anticipation reaches its climax with Jesse finding Ruben, the scene as a whole establishes another trait of Jesse's character, that being his will to protect those he has. For throughout everything leading up to the forest search, we see him as a somewhat snarky, hotshot character with common ambitions, and only through his powerlessness do we first see distinction within him, that being a conviction unique to himself, a conviction almost defining as a leader, even for Ruben, and especially for Ruben, as the scene is also the first to foreshadow the sacrifice crucial to Jesse's identity. Even before the credits, his conviction stands strong, even when Jesse and Ruben are cornered by mobs, because whatever Jesse chooses to do, whether that be sending him running back to town or to stay behind him, not only further fuels his will to protect, but also, because it's the first of a path of major choices to be presented to the player, embarks the beginning of a journey for Jesse's character. For even with his will to protect, he's still culpable, as either decision he makes results him in making a mistake in doing so, by Ruben either getting a black eye or being caught by the town butcher out in the woods, which establishes the need for him to endure and develop from his mistakes. Second is after on the bridge, where Petra, who also seems to lack some identity herself as a loner, tells him that putting rivalry aside and talking to Lucas would be a good idea, which faces Jesse with another, more subtle, yet more crucial challenge. Then the scene ends with the pair forced to jump off the bridge from mobs which challenged them, foreshadowing not only the 3 falls from grace both they and their friends, as well as the order and the whole world will have to face, but also the long trek of water below back to the village. Symbolism to the length and the distance of the journey required by the player to rise above their falls, and the journey ahead encompasses why the game is played through our choices for Jesse's character, so we, as the players, can fulfill not only his identity, but ours on story mode and Minecraft as a whole, as the journey challenges Jesse to rise above and beyond answers and revelations neither he nor we could have ever expected. From the very moment when Jesse and Petra step foot away from EnderCon into an alley are the preconceived notions of the Order challenged. For Petra was about to deal from her combative identity a wither skull with a strange man for a diamond, symbolism for her inspiration of Gabriel in both the battle and the reward, only for their expectations to be subverted when she's given lapis, the true colors of the man's intentions, colors which foreshadow further subversion for the world. Immediately, however, it's a subversion for Petra because she has been cheated out of not just a diamond, but her expectations. However, the true treasure she and her friends would find would not be in the reward, but in the search for it. An underlying theme also prevalent within the scene as the pair began to chase the man down. The chase, however, is only completed through payoff from Petra's earlier suggestion to Jesse to talk to Lucas, that being how the group is able to get Lucas to give them the last slime ball needed to corner Ivor. However, the early payoff leads the group to not the treasure, but a greater challenge, as the strange man is about to challenge the convention of peace and prosperity that has for so long reigned in the world thanks to the Order, by summoning not just a wither, but a wither powered by a block of the greatest potential. That potential being the coin of phrase by the narrator to
Create or destroy.
The moment Ivor reveals himself to the crowd and Gabriel builds upon his obscure self in the crown, also lines up with the moment of which his own identity is established, because similar to Jesse, a sense of mystery pervades about the man, about his meticulous planning, and most importantly, his motivations, which in the final moments leading up to the revelation of his relations with Gabriel are spelled out with bitterness and resentment, challenging not just Gabriel, but the Order, an exact opposite to what we see of Jesse's views of the Order. The suspense builds to a climactic bang, where Ivor affirms the length his challenge against the Order will go, a challenge Jesse and the gang were now tied up in as well, not just because of the trail Ivor left for them to pursue, but also because of how over-reliant they were on the Order, evident in Axel's reckless potion theft, hence why they couldn't just run with the rest of the crowd, as Ivor summoned the very thing capable of destroying not just the Order, but the world in which it was founded upon.
Nothing built can last forever, Gabriel.
Ivor, no!
Creature, attack!
Ivor's challenge is one that leaves not just Jesse's gang, but Gabriel and Ivor powerless. For Gabriel alone could not defeat it, and nor could even Ivor, an emphasis as to how culpable Jesse and the gang is despite their ambitions, because of their ambitions, is put into perspective, for their retreat from the storm would force them to fall into the jaws of defeat. The monster then rises its challenge to the Order-built world as a whole when it finally emerges from the theater, and the world around Jesse falls apart faster than he ever could have imagined as a great storm consumes everything in its wake. Right before Jesse and the gang finally hit bedrock bottom when trapped in the Nether with the storm's creator, Gabriel succumbs to the fact that he can't save everyone, and in passing the amulet, which symbolizes the response of rebuilding from the remains of the Order, to Jesse, he somewhat knowingly accepts Ivor's challenge to pit the Order against the storm.
You again.
The moment Jesse and the gang are stranded in the Nether is the exact moment where they finally hit the ground from the first fall, and their confrontation with Ivor serves as the first moment from that fall where the consequences of everybody's actions comes into perspective. Within those moments comes one of having to inevitably face truth, as Ivor spells out their carelessness and that the only way out of their situation was through the legacy of the Order in their old temple, led by minecarts Ivor directs them to in the Nether, and within the temple they do find truth.
These 5 members, 5 friends, together would give so much to gain their rightful place as 5 heroes.
They would author their own end. They would slay a dragon.
The very man who had challenged the world to challenge the Order was once one with the Order. The revelation embarks not only a perspective of Ivor's culpability for the lengths he would go to for revenge on the Order, but also an inevitability for the gang to face truth as well as acceptance, an inevitability crucial to any hope of them defeating the storm. Something Jesse realizes.
The Order might not be what we thought they were, but Petra is still out there. That monster is still out there.
For instead of letting truth stop them immediately from their mission, Jesse continues through his conviction to assume responsibility for their mission by Gabriel to seek out the Order, hence why he also assumes responsibility to keep the group moving together. When strife breaks out between Lucas and Axel over the consequences of their actions that led to them getting separated from Petra, it becomes Jesse's responsibility to keep the group moving forward and together. Even when trapped in the arrow-filled hallways, he assumes responsibility as a leader for the situation by asking all his friends what they have so that they could craft a solution out. But even as they seek out the remaining 2 members, understanding the mission as they understand how the amulet works, they soon learn that even with Ivor's spiteful identity would come truth, and even some reason as to why, even quoted by Ivor, that
They cannot help you. But me? I choose not to.
For the group and their mission would eventually learn how the connection between Ivor and the Order was severed, in their hopes to reunite the Order, only to further light the trail fuse that the Order was not as prosperous as its legend suggested. For Magnus and Elgar both have well buried themselves away from their responsibility as heroes in favor of what remains of their identity. And even when they are convinced, when the group is challenged to ideologically reposition them back towards their responsibility as the Order, order, conflict breaks out between the pair, so much so it overrides the objective of the group to bring the peace and prosperity the legends said they brought once before. Such conflict finally escalates to the two separating from the rest of the group, with the order and their common dream waning even more in the wake of Ivor's challenge, for not only were the members barely any help to Jesse's gang, but Ivor was also able to walk away from a fight that proved futile to them all and locked them away. Responsibility, however, still resides within Jesse's identity, fueling his determination to seek out the remaining and most elusive member, Soren, and his leadership becoming a driving force of how the group is able to battle their way through the mob grinder. For it becomes more through Jesse's actions than any actions of anyone they've recruited from the Order that are able to drive the group to fulfilling their responsibility. From the mob grinder all the way up to the loner and Lucas taking over him over Petrio's sickness. And despite Lucas's arrogance, despite their rivalry, despite everything Jesse and his friends did not like about Lucas and the Ocelots, it becomes a responsibility devoted solely to his leadership to pull him back up on his feet.
If we stick together, we can do anything, even something that feels impossible.
It just feels extra impossible now.
Then we stick together extra hard.
Also establishing a theme of teamwork that attributes to their endurance through the challenges of their mission, something which, in many ways, the Order lacks. Healing the broken friendship between the rivals is crucial to Jesse's mission to find Soren, because when he is finally introduced, it becomes Jesse's responsibility to ideologically reposition him to believe that their troubles were ones that needed his help, a task made difficult by Soren's isolation from the world, for just like Lucas previously, he lives as a loner, even wishing at times that he never became who he was, foreshadowing what the Big Bang at the end of the Rising Drill will be. Even after Jesse pleads his case successfully, Soren, similar to Ivor, seems distant still from the world he himself built. Only Ivor's is by force becoming choice, and Soren's was pure choice, becoming forced to have to face the eventual destruction of their entire legacy, for peace and prosperity would become to everyone a lie as beautiful as the world of Minecraft that the Order built themselves. For Soren's Formidabomb not only failed to realize the strength of the command block which drove the life of the Wither Storm, but it also invested its power in the command block, the very block that would, to quote Ivor once more,
blow up in their faces in more ways than one.
And then comes the very climactic bang at the end of Jesse and the gang's rise from the bedrock depths that they had once before been cast into, with a moment of hope that even after all the truths they face, after all the challenges they've endured, that peace and prosperity would still be a truth. For a moment of celebration occurs, as well as a touching moment between Jesse and Reuben.
Thanks, buddy.
A short moment that, upon first viewing, could be shrugged off as, while touching, expected, but upon foreshadowing, it sparks another, stronger foreshadow of a must to sacrifice. For if that moment were not pivotal to that must, it would not be something animated and released in the final game. For that spark of foreshadow builds a trail of foreshadowing that must. As by Jesse's choice, a sacrifice was made already for the bomb to go off. For either Magnus or Ellegaard, whose ever armor Jesse took, lies dying before the group, with only the thought of being a real hero to comfort them, and their dying wish to save every person who remained from the storm. The action of the bomb, the consequences begin to fall on them, and finally crash back down to rock bottom for everyone when the command block reawakens.
Command block, that's impossible! What the? Guys! Over here!
And its reawakening signals to them that it won't die without work through what the entire Order lacked throughout their entire journey. Leadership, truth, and most of all, sacrifice. Hence, its first priority before reawakening the storm being to eliminate the one whose identity is the most capable of embodying everything the block survives against. And he survives only by the hand of the one with none of the preconceived notions of the Order, nor their lie, yet with all the notions for responsibility, the one payoff for a plan that otherwise was always destined to fail. Storm reawakens, stronger than before, and once more everyone hits rock bottom with their only plan gone awry.
There! We need to ride over that bridge. Oh no!
Jesse, look out!
Surviving only by the creatures for which Sword tried not to be a loner to, for only the Endermen stood between them and the storm long enough for them to escape, for them to see what remained after their second fall. And when they look to those who remain, they see ahead the three driving forces by the three falls for which Jesse will take to see the light ahead. The first force behind the rebirth of the Order is Jesse's leadership. For though the group is at their lowest, once more hope begins to spark within them. Gabriel tells Lucas that there were people who wore the same jacket as he, people seen alive. There's hope by Gabriel's friends that their memory can be restored. And even though brutal conflict breaks out between the one who summoned the storm and the one who failed the summoner's challenge, there's hope yet in the revelation between the two of the vital weaknesses to the Witherstorm, the Endermen and the command block's failsafe. More than ever does this hope call for leadership, and Jesse once more carries out such leadership, not in spite of the fatal consequences should they fail, but because of them. Stronger than before as responsibility calls to him to unite the group more than they were the first time they fell, as he helps Lucas decide whether to stay or go, as he helps Gabriel to regain their memories through stories of his choosing, as he determines what Petriel's role should be in this with their sickness, as he puts together, with the help of not Soren or Ivor alone, but both of them, a game plan that left nothing to undeterminable chance, to be able to, with his friends, rise to the challenge that the Order failed, that being to fulfill the peace and prosperity once promised. The long trek to the Farlands, a trek paralleling that of Jesse's and Petra's to EnderCon, to that of the gangs from the Nether to the End, faces the group with challenges which call for more leadership, and Jesse continues to deliver that leadership, from the small handshake callback to give Axel motivation for his part, to his decision to trust Axel with the amulet crucial to weakening the storm, to when the group faces starvation, and it's in Jesse's hands to either find them food or get them out of there immediately, but where his leadership comes to play above all else in the trek to Ivor's failsafe is when Olivia, when Jesse calls to her to fix the redstone barge that would take them across, slumps over in defeat, finally letting out the frustration of the Order and doubt for the world, asking the same question as Lucas in the end.
If one of our best fighters is sick, do we even stand a chance anymore?
If the Order can't do this, how are we supposed to?
Payoff from how the player lifted Lucas back on his feet comes in the form of Jesse assuming the same responsibility to Olivia, and it's thanks not only to Jesse's motivational talk, but her ingenuity, and most of all, her teamwork when put together to fix the barge and fly the group from the ground of defeat across the void.
Jesse!
To Ivor's cottage, and leadership remains one of the two driving forces able to get Jesse up and inside the Witherstorm to finish off the block that began the destruction of everything. For not only do Jesse's actions to get the Endermen within the tractor beam inspire Axel and Ruben to help him in doing so, but the hows of getting up also culminate in a callback to his leadership to utilize what they had remaining, which led to success to Jesse and his friends to rise to Ivor's challenge.
Okay, it's finished.
Quick, climb on!
Jesse, you can do this. I know you can.
So do I.
We all do.
Thanks, guys. It means a lot.
Now go demolish that command block.
Such leadership, however, would prove Jesse and his friends to be a stark opposite to the Order, for another driving force that breaks them, yet drives Jesse to face the command block, is through the force of truth.
We meet again, command block.
Then recovery.
Now it's time to destroy you.
Whilst the bang before was one of the Order's failure to rise to the challenge of its common promise, it lit a second trail fuse. A fuse much more fatal to their legend. Where the long trek was recovery for Jesse, it was the fall of the Order, and the Order finally hit their bedrock when they came upon what lay for them at the end. Truth, which forced them to face and accept failure. Even before the trek to the Farlands, conflict emerges between Soren and Ivor, which places Soren, the so-called leader of the Order, into the same shoes Jesse was in his pep talk to Lucas, and yet, as opposed to Jesse's diplomacy with Lucas, Soren immediately shuts Ivor out, even after his truthful insight on how the command block can be destroyed, instead trying to persuade the others that Ivor should not be listened to. Even after how far they go on their trek, he keeps attempting to turn the others against the Farlands, a decision Jesse heavily opposes for how far they've come, as his denial builds further when Jesse and Soren are alone with puzzles that fortify the Order's legacy for them to go through. He positions himself in contrast to Jesse's more humble identity formed from his commitment to the mission as the self-centered hero of the story for how they beat their endgame. For in his story, Soren is the primary force behind destroying all 4 crystals, even with the aid of his allies. Heck, even Gabriel's
famous final blow
is undermined in his tale, and the shot following places Soren front and center, and Ivor in the background as if he weren't there. In fact, he wasn't even mentioned in the story. Decisions which cannot be an accident, and accidents they are not, for the Order finally faces the climactic moment of truth. The Ender Crystals, the very devices used by Soren to place himself front and center in the story to fortify his legacy, still stood to resemble a legacy founded upon a lie as powerful as the failsafe that resided in front of it. Try as Soren might, Jesse's finally had enough of every challenge the Order lost, every moment of conflicting identity between him and Soren, finally ready to face the truth, demanded from the Order's supposed leader, and the leader was supposed because just as the Ender Dragon died by no battle, the Order ran by no leader.
So, I concocted a plan. I would use the command block to blink the Ender Dragon out of existence. Securing our status as legends forever.
No leader, no growth, no skill, nothing to prove they had built their greatness by their own hands at all. All they had to lead them to greatness, all they had to cast the Ender Dragon into oblivion with was one block. The command block. The Order had become a failure, because there was never any true leadership within it, for the block was only able to get them as far as blinking the Ender Dragon out of existence. It couldn't stop the Order from breaking up even after attaining their status as legends, for which they long ambitioned for. It couldn't settle the constant quarrel between Magnus and Olgard. It couldn't give Gabriel greatness beyond his speeches, even without the sicknesses of the storm. It couldn't destroy the crystals for Soren, and it most certainly couldn't stop a challenger of the Order from giving that block the potential to destroy once more and challenge not just the Order, but the world that had basked in its lies. And yet, Ivor knew he too was culpable for the existence of the Order's lies, for agreeing to stay quiet in exchange for their treasures, for failing to truly foresee what would happen if his Wither plan backfired, and for being no less than a coward. However, Of the 5, he was the one most willing to embrace the Order's failures, even after all he did to see the Order fail from facing the truth, not because he was the first and most to know that leading by an uncontrollable block would prove fatal to them, but because he knew that nothing mattered anymore except for ending what began everything. A fact Swarm finally comes to terms with, a fact exemplified by Ivor when he states,
"How ironic that the best thing the command block gave us was the very means to destroy it. Grab some ingredients and craft a weapon. I'll show you how to enchant it."
The exemplification goes further when Ivor, aware that he is as subject to the Order's failures as they were, lets Jesse take the reins of the rest of the mission, letting him lead on not just the decision of what weapon to craft to merge with the book.
Behold, my enchanted diamond pickaxe!
But also on which of the 8 sets of armor to choose from, as well as letting him take some for his friends.
Wow, cool armor, Jesse.
Thanks. And there's plenty to go around.
And even when he runs off after Soren, cowardly as he may be for doing so, he makes sure that they can handle themselves and reminds them once more of the only objective that matters anymore.
Just get to the command block and destroy it!
And the decision by Jesse and the team to at last assume full responsibility for the mission to stop the storm becomes the climax for a writing technique pervaded throughout the journey, known as ideological repositioning. For throughout the entirety of the story, the group is seen idealizing the Order as the only ones capable of stopping the storm. They're seen despite the Order members' first appearance trying to reposition them to save the world. But once the Order's true colors are revealed to them, they understand. They aren't repositioning the Order. The Order is repositioning them.
So much for the mighty Order of the Stone.
Doesn't matter. We have work to do.
And through this moment, by assuming responsibility, they accept the reposition it took for them to save the world. And the reposition paves the road left for them to become a new Order, a true Order of the Stone.
Ruben, this is no place for a pig!
Even Jesse himself, when only he and Ruben remain in the chambers of the Witherstorm, carries out the entire way through his objective to destroy the block. No more can it lead him, no more can it lead his ambitions, and Jesse can lead the world himself with the block's destruction.
No, 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 no! Ruben, I need your help! Remember how we used to play fetch?
And it leads to a moment of peril, which calls upon the past of Jesse and completes a character arc for Ruben as he goes from the ordinary, somewhat reckless pig he was to the hero giving Jesse the weapon he needs to save the world.
Jump, I'll catch you! You did it! I knew I could count on you!
And not only finish the monster that threatened to consume all, but to also finally end the world from succumbing to the command block. For a moment, Jesse is able to live in the peace and prosperity given to him by Ruben, his common dream fulfilled, until it gets ripped away.
Ruben! Hold on, buddy! Ruben! No!
In a moment of pure rage, fear, and above all else, desperation, Jesse desperately tries to live in it again. But he inevitably falls once more. And Ruben doesn't land with him in the water the way Jesse has for 3 times now.
Ruben! Where's Ruben?
I thought he was with you!
Which comes to the third and final driving force, leading to the Order's rebirth.
Ruben!
To sum it up, Ruben is killed by the very conventions in which his friendship with Jesse had defied. For indeed, how could Jesse go back to living in the peace and prosperity he had before, much of which was defined by his relationship with Ruben, the one living thing he sought out most to protect?
Ruben, you're a hero. You know that?
you just helped save the world.
The scene feels cruel.
Come on, Reuben, say something.
There's no proper goodbye. Reuben unable to process Jesse's attempts to comfort him.
It's okay, boy. I'm here. I'm here.
Not even a body left to bury. He's just gone. Reuben had to die. And it's in this moment where Jesse's world fractures.
Jesse, I am so sorry.
He was a great pig.
For even though the storm had ended, and the command block no more, peace and prosperity, the true greatness that the Order was once defined by, was out of their reach still, for their true hero's remains lay dead before not just Jesse, not just the New Order, but all the victims of the Wither Storm, all those finally realizing that they're in as much peril now as they were before. Now came the moment when the world truly needed heroes, more than ever, as they all stood at Reuben's memorial, in memory of his sacrifice. A crowd behind them cheers. The Order, both old and new, walk up and take their places on the mantle. Gabriel leaves in Jesse's hands the decision of whether to tell the crowd the truth or let them have their legend.
People used to look at me like that once, Jesse. Perhaps they deserve to know the truth about the Order.
And regardless of the choice, in more ways than one, his speech concludes an era. For not only does Gabriel, by truth or by legend, announce Jesse and his team
are a new generation of heroes!
but he also leaves once more the leadership of the entire Order to Jesse's hands with his decision.
Thank you everyone!
And he leaves it because while the Ender Dragon was one definitive endgame for the world, the Wither Storm was just another. There were troubles beyond the Ender Dragon, and there would be troubles beyond the Wither Storm. But where there would be troubles, where there would be more falls to come, through the cheers of the crowd that needed them more than ever, there would be the potential to rise above them, potential which Jesse finally realizes that perhaps peace and prosperity, after all they've been through, is still possible. For while one endgame, Minecraft's endgame, gave way to peace and prosperity, even if it were always doomed, Story Mode's endgame gave way to true potential for life and story for Minecraft beyond the Ender Dragon. Through the strength of their teamwork and loyalty that grew in Jesse and his friends.
You see, I had my friends with me. It was Olivia, Axel, Petra, Lucas.
Through their will to trek to the furthest, weirdest, and most dangerous of places.
I mean, come on, we went to the far lands.
But most of all, through their ability to move forward again with sacrifice.
But when all was said and done, you know what really mattered? My hero, Reuben the pig. He may have seemed like just a pig to most people, but he was so much more. And at the end of the day, he saved us all. For Reuben!
To let it drive them towards what the Order of the Stone promised would bring. And the moment the Nether Star, the treasure of their adventure, is passed on to Jesse to power the beacons.
Jesse, this is the Nether Star that dropped when the Wither Storm was destroyed. You want to do the honors?
This is gonna be so cool.
Jesse, for his friends, for the old order, for the world.
My friends, I am now pleased to introduce to you.
Accepts that his endgame, the endgame that nearly destroyed him, wasn't the end of him, and it certainly wouldn't be the end of the Order. It was the beginning for a new era.
The New Order of the Stone!
And now for a question where I become objective yet personal. The question of potential. Did Minecraft Story Mode need to be better? Yes and no. Yes, if the intent of the game was to last forever, or at least longer, there is indeed a lot of room for improvement, from the flawed animation to the number of questionable plot decisions, from small nitpicks to noticeable head-scratchers, to the tone that somewhat undermines the thematic messages far explored here. It did need to do better, should they have wanted it to last longer. But as a legend, an enduring legend still remembered by many, from YouTubers basing their channels almost entirely on MCSM to retrospectives looking back on the game's legacy, and now a full fan remake of MCSM in honor of its legend, it never needed to be better. In fact, as a legend that faded with Telltale's financial shutdown and rights expiring, and yet endured as self-evident fact from its many players and fans, it's perfect. Because even with its flaws, even with everything it was criticized for, it's a game that still means so much to many, and so much to me, and I, for one, wouldn't trade it for the world. Its strongest points and most moving moments and best episodes giving story mode a vision, and most importantly, a heart making it distinct from anything else Telltale has done. And even its lower points and more questionable decisions, even they still prove interesting. What I find most rewarding personally is just how ahead of its time MCSM was, as not only a legend that endured its release, and endures to this day, but also was the conclusion for an era, for it opened the doors to a Minecraft beyond what Notch had envisioned.
The next page is yours.
A Minecraft that can endure, a Minecraft that can grow, even in its deepest moments of doubt. It told a story that explored the endless potential of life and of story for Minecraft beyond where its story came to a closure. Wow. What a story Minecraft Story Mode told.
And so it was that a new Order of the Stone was born. One whose adventures were only just beginning. For though the world had been saved and the command block destroyed, there are many more worlds than just this one.